Ladies and gentlemen, as you said, my name is Fernando, and I'm going to talk a little about science and art. I'd like to start saying that according to one's life experience, each person's brain is more adapted or adequate to certain kinds of activities. Depending on what activity that is, we label people immediately. For an instance, we perceive artists as imaginative, scientists as wise and knowledgeable, athletes as determined, and so on. Even though specific people may contain specific characteristics, labeling them compresses their entire potential to one word or adjective. Whether or not certain abilities are associated with one specific trait is something to be discussed. Common sense preaches that to be an artist, you must be imaginative, inspired, and pretty much have every subjective characteristic there is. Unfortunately, not only that is not realistic, as it is vague and senseless. Edgar Allan Poe, worldwide known for his poetry, published in January 1845 his most successful poem, called The Raven. 1 year later, he made another publication by the title of The Philosophy of Composition, in which he explained every single detail in the construction of his masterpiece. His main thesis in this second publication was that the notion of artistic intuition does not exist, and therefore that writing is analytical and methodical, not spontaneous. Of course, not spontaneous does not mean purely logical. It means that concepts such as imagination, creativity, logic, and knowledge are necessarily attached and cannot exist if not coexisting. If knowledge is necessary in the construction of and formulation of many theses and theories, knowledge, imagination and creativity are no less important in the application and social use of these inventions. And considering the necessary connection between these concepts, we can expand Poe's thesis to the universe of science. Again, the discussion is not whether or not knowledge is unnecessary for science, but that it can only be of use if well supported by creativity, imagination, and a good discerning capability. We can use the Brazilian scientist Santos Dumont as an example. His most recognized invention is the airplane, which he built based on his concepts of physics, aerodynamics, and the current society's needs. If his knowledge was necessary to build the physical plane, imagination and creativity would be necessary to build the ideological plane. Because today, we label this machine as transportation. But shortly after it was invented, it was seen as a weapon and used mostly in war. Considering the dependence existing between the objective and the subjective, we can even find an unbreakable historical link between science and art. A link which only exists because both art and science produce their works according to the current society's needs. The point is that what we can or cannot produce does not entirely depend on our capabilities, but also on our historical context. We just have to picture a few actions which were unimaginable some decades ago, but are now banal or in process of becoming so. In the past, medicine couldn't advance because doctors were forbidden to study dead bodies. Curiously, when that was permitted, not only did medicine advance a lot, but also art. Because acquiring knowledge about the human body enables us to understand how it works, as well as how to represent it. A situation that can illustrate this example very well is that in the past, many of the most successful artists were also the most successful scientists. Leonardo da Vinci is worldwide recognized both for his artworks and the machines he engineered, as well as for his many studies on human anatomy. Therefore, we can conclude that there is no explicit barrier between science and art, but much the opposite. They are tied close together, for the advance of one of them either enables or supports the other. In the end, science and art are just two terms to organize our heads, because if they support each other, just like imagination and knowledge, the gap between their meanings cannot be that big. Hence, whenever working with something, we should study both its artistic and scientific values, with the objective of increasingly reducing the distance between these concepts and therefore enriching our life experience. Thank you very much.